Well, one thing is there, one impact of this war has been that because of the energy disruptions, disruptions, Trump has already taken off the sanctions from the Russian
Russia.
oil. Not only Russian oil, but even the Iranian oil, which has been black.
It
So Iranians are making $14 billion out of
logics
it.
have gone for a six.
Yes, because they depend a great deal on the Hormuz, opening of the Hormuz and other sea lanes of communications. 85% of our trade is there. Our UAE and Saudi Arabia are our fourth largest partners. We have more than $200 billion trade with the region. So, from our perspective, it has direct impact. More importantly, for us, there are about 10 million people who are remitting about $70 billion, and their safety and security is of tremendous concern for us. So, India is in a very special bracket as far as this war is concerned. As far as China and Russia are concerned, overtly, I must say that they have not gained any great traction in this war. Russians are making money, but Russians are stuck in that war with Ukraine. Therefore, they don't have a spare capacity to help. Right now, they are helping China and Russia are helping Iran mainly with the communications. Their GLONASS satellites constellation, and
They are offering the
the
background
Chinese.
support to the
Yes, which is
Iranians
very,
and the
very
Houthis.
important today for precision strikes. Unfortunately, this region is very volatile. Maximum number of hotspots are there. And so there is always the possibility of a war breaking out. There are these legacy issues like Palestine, which have not been resolved. It keeps giving countries an option to go for doing something. But I think that after this war, we will have some kind of a forced peace for some time.
That will be
But,
a huge
but,
takeaway.
but the fact is that if we don't get this, some kind of a ceasefire agreement quickly, we might have a bigger conflagration going forward next week onwards.
Hi, welcome to Podcast with Pratim. I have with me Ambassador Anil Trigunayat. You have seen him number of times, quite an expert on a lot of things, Middle East, Russia, Europe, etc. Sir, Middle East is burning. I mean, that goes without saying. And just over the last 48 to 24 to 48 hours, so I'm just listing out certain things like Iran had hit an US AWACS, or they have hit the power infrastructure in Kuwait, or there was a hit on an Israeli chemical factory. These all are I'm quoting from Al Jazeera, so I assume they are correct. Uh, Houthis have joined the battle. And I was just watching a presentation somewhere about the missile that they have launched to Israel, and that is quite a technology marvel. I mean, it is a hypersonic or a semi-hypersonic stuff. And it is perceived that the ceasefire that the US announced, they are using it to reorganize themselves. That is the anticipation. So, given that, do you expect uh, any end to this war at this juncture?
Well, thank you, Pradeep ji. It's always a pleasure to be with you on your podcast and to discuss several important issues. But what we are discussing today in West Asia is a situation that is not only localized, but it has a tremendous impact globally. And therefore, it is of great concern to everyone, including us in India. And we can talk about it later. As you know, that this war, in my view, on February 28th, was started at a time when an agreement on the nuclear domain of or quest of Iran was within reach. We have not to believe the Americans or the Iranians, but we must believe what the foreign minister of Oman, who was the
Right.
mediator between the two, said very clearly. He has written a very good article in The Economist, and in which he has clearly said that everything was ready. So, second time, from June 25 to February 26, the same playbook. The first you engage them in negotiations. When negotiations are right, then you attack Iran. This
Right.
happened in June. This is happening now in February. Americans were at no stage were so confident. Plus, they have privatized this diplomacy also. Now, as you know, the people, businessmen are conducting diplomacy in the country. They are the special
Yeah.
negotiators
I
and
mean,
envoys.
it was shocking that Elon Musk was hearing what Trump and Modi were discussing.
No, not only that. I mean, the people who are actually the negotiators, whether it is Jared Kushner or whether it is Steve Witkoff, they are all businessmen. I mean, they're going around, and nuclear negotiations are extremely tactical and very technical in detail. So they understood or misunderstood, it doesn't know. At the same time, both sides seem to have agreed that yes, it's there. So what happened is, if the Iranians who have been hit once, deceived twice, continue to be deceived the third time, then they deserve what they are getting.
Right.
Because you can be fool me once, fool me twice, but you can't fool me forever. And
Right.
that's precisely the situation today. They went into this war, as you have to believe Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, who very clearly said a couple of days, although they all retracted because of the Trump's hire, that uh, Israel was determined to go and attack Iran, and therefore we had to come in. Now, if that is your war objective, then you don't know what you're getting into. This is not Venezuela, this is not even Iraq or Libya for that matter. This is 4 times the size of Iraq, the country, which is also a very civilizational country, where well entrenched. And they were not sleeping. They were watching all these events unfold and strategizing. So when you want regime change, there is an automatically something about the regime survival. So decapitation strategy that was deployed by the Americans did not work. There are no doubt they are no match to the American firepower. But we have all seen how the guerrilla warfare eventually works if there are the boots on the ground. So they are waiting for that also. They have dispersed their decision making. And nobody had the real clue how much of missiles or drones or other ammunition they have. They all thought they had 2,000, 1,000 missiles, they'll do this and that. Everything is finished. So there is an exhaustion with regard to the firepower of all the three, the US, Israel, and Iran. But Iran is still maybe having some more in reserve. So that is why they are continuing now in a very calibrated manner do it. They have strategically also released the energy of their partners, which provided them a symmetric advantage. That is Hezbollah in Lebanon. They are engaging the Iranians a great deal there and also attacking them. No doubt there'll be losses because Israel is the most strongest army in the region. Then, day before yesterday, you have seen the Houthis are come into picture. So far, Houthis were keeping quiet.
Exactly.
And they have come into picture because now, as Americans are pressuring.
And it was a surprise attack. Quite a
Yes.
surprise.
No, they had to come in. But the Iranians were strategically keeping them last. Because if they close the Hormuz, the Red Sea and Bab el Mandab will be closed or come under fire from the Houthis. So you see the whole range of the sea lanes of communications will be in their control until it is released. So now you are looking at the Americans getting in 5,000, 10,000 Marines from all over and trying to take the Kharg Island, where 90% or 85% of the Iranian reserves or the strategic reserves are kept, or from where they are selling the crude oil. Whether that will be an easy thing, one does not know. We'll only know when they really want to take over. Or they will take over Abu Musa, the
Sir,
island.
don't you think that the bigger thing is what will be the cost of that takeover?
This is what I'm saying. The Iran's strategy is not to win this war. Iran's strategy is to make the victory for the enemy the costliest ever.
And they have already done some, I saw some assessments.
No, I mean, the countries in the Gulf are losing a great deal.
Someone
They,
did an assessment, I saw it on Twitter, that so far the losses are more than COVID.
yes, of course. I mean, this will be. I mean, this is a war in which you are blindly hitting the places. So the Iranians are doing what they have been saying all along, that in case they're attacked the second time, and this is one of their conditions, that they will not be attacked in future. You see that that is one very clear condition they have put in their demands. So they are told that in case they are hit again, they will continue and attack all the assets that the United States has, whether it is their bases, whether their companies, their banks, or anything related to the US and Israel. Precisely that is doing. Secondly, the only country which has a clear objective in this is Israel, because that has been its objective for 40 years, to completely demolish the Iranian regime if they can, or at least to make it totally unworkable, create some kind of a change in the place, fragment the country if possible, and then that suits them. So they are continuing to
It
every
seems
time.
that the world is fighting, destroying assets only to please Israel.
No, once you get into a war, then you have really no choice. You have to continue to hit. Now, what are the Iranians doing? Iranians are hitting the American targets, which are quite plenty of them in the region. And according to them, strategically, if they did not attack these bases, although they are violating the sovereignty of these countries, but if they don't attack the bases, that means they are sitting duck themselves. Anybody can hit them from there, they are just next door. So that is their logic to do so. And they have been saying that we are hitting military targets, not civilian targets. Wherever there are civilian targets, they believe that there are either the Americans living or the Israelis are living or their intelligence agents or outfits are there. So that is also true. At the end of the day, the Israelis are also hitting the residential buildings, pretending that there is some commander or somebody is there.
After all, America has hit a school,
The very first day. And now
right?
they're going to.
So America has, they have no excuse.
No, they have no excuse. They don't care. Where is the excuse? Do they care? No. So
So, yeah.
what you asked the question whether the war will stop. Both sides have tendered their demands. Americans have given 15 demands. Iranians have given up 5 or 6 demands. Those are vertically opposite demands. And therefore, until and unless both sides come down of the high ladder, it'll be extremely difficult to reach that. But even if they did, my hunch is Israelis will not be on board with that because they would not have achieved the objectives that they have been trying to achieve. That is, if the regime survives in whichever form, or the IRGC, which controls the regime today, remains there, then obviously the Israelis will not accept that and they will continue to attack, which is what we are seeing now, whether it is false flag operations, whether direct hit on the nuclear facilities or direct hit on the infrastructure. Now the Iranians have said if their power infrastructure is hit, they will hit everything in the region, including desalination plants.
Yes.
If that happens, then you are looking at a terrible situation in the region itself because the regional countries
And they're
depend
very
on,
precise in their attacks. I mean,
yeah, 90% they depend on the desalination plants for the
right.
water.
And also when they bombed that South Pass,
Yes.
so it was a very strategic hit.
This is what I'm saying. I mean, when in the war, both sides are quite precise. It's not that they are not. Of course, the Americans have much more firepower as of today, but we don't know how long that's going to last and who all. Because see, US, the problem is that no other country is supporting them.
So let me take you to the point then. The problem is that in this war, whosoever loses, whosoever backs down, will be considered a loser. Now the stakes are very high for US. Iran doesn't have much to lose in this war. They're already destroyed kind of stuff, right? They were living in sanctions. They are fighting this war. I have a fear that unfortunately we are creating, because they decentralized IRGC, because they knew that head could be decapitated, so they decentralized. So there can be a possibility that we can see another Houthi in the region. But that is, let's set that apart. That's about future. But my point is very simple, that assume today that both sides reach an agreement. The moment US reaches the agreement, it means a political loss for Trump.
Well, I
Don't you
think that
agree?
he will claim the victory and he might not even have an agreement and walk away. I mean, that is also a possibility. He will say that I have demolished the regime. He's already claiming victory for that. That the IRGC and the capacities of the Iranians have been significantly reduced. And if he thinks the costs outweigh his this thing, I'm quite sure that he will suddenly take a U-turn. Number one, he has been telling the NATO and other allies in Europe, I don't need Strait of Hormuz. It's you guys who need it. So those who need it must provide security for that. So he's not interested in that. Of course, there are many people who try to give a lot of spin that he wants to control the Iranian oil to contain China and things like that. But these are not very easy things. You produce oil to sell, and you sell to the countries that require it. India and China are the biggest consumers of oil.
Yes. Right.
So irrespective of whoever controls, doesn't matter that this oil will go or not. You can't keep the oil inside the house. You have to sell it. So even if they controlled it, hypothetically, they will have to sell to whichever country wants to buy. And so you will see a lot of people are making very facile explanations about things. But in this particular, I feel that the Trump has been played into this war by Netanyahu. And now he doesn't know how to get out of it. So he's trying to find all kinds of.
Exactly, sir. So that was precisely, Trump can say whatever he wants, but life is way beyond those truth social, right?
Yes, of course.
So he has had his days of giving spin in his tweets, in his social media statements. But don't you think that that whole business has come to an end? Uh,
Well, I think that they are still continuing to hope that there will be some agreement and that they can walk away with that as being victorious. That is the first objective at this stage, or at least pretend to be, have won the war. Iranians, of course, if they can remain in power, whatever Mostaba is alive or not, we don't know. Or whoever comes after him, there are quite a few of them lined up already. And Mustaba was not one of the four that Khamenei had suggested to. So those other four are still there. Now, in this sense, if they remain, IRGC remains. The intellect and the intelligentsia of Iran remains. It's a matter of time that they will acquire the similar kind of a heft. And with the agreement, this time, sanctions are to be lifted completely. And they are asking for a guarantee from the Americans and Israelis that there will be no further attack on them. So there would be a give and take. And as you rightly mentioned, give and take means Americans, some people might perceive as America's defeat. But what about Afghanistan? They just walked away one fine day after 20 years. So Trump is not interested in getting stuck here for 20 years. He would rather walk out now than it is too late.
Whatever they were doing in Afghanistan didn't affect the world.
It did, of course, it did affect the South Asia. It did affect, it has created terrorism. It has created, of course, but not a kind of impact this is having.
Right. Now, from Japan, Korea, India, everyone is affected, wherever they are. So, first is the impact. Second is that Trump has been using this, all these pins for, Venezuela, Cuba, Greenland. So he was almost unstoppable. He was doing whatever he wants, reciprocal tariffs, slapping tariffs, etc., etc. Now we are seeing that rallies have come out the other day in USA. So point is much bigger than number one is that the world has become tired of him. Number two, whether his own country has become tired of him because he has a midterm this year.
Well, it
So,
seems so. You know that there was a CBS survey only last week, and 66% of the Americans thought that this was a war of choice by him. 60% of them disapproved of it. 50%, 57% thought that this war is going badly for America. Badly. That's the word used. Also, on the even though it is the largest producer of oil and gas today, in the United States, the cost of living has gone up significantly.
right.
$1 per gallon in the on the petrol pump has increased since the war began 1 month ago. People are suffering. His MAGA constituency is not happy with him because they obviously, he said that they will not like these wars. He will not go in for wars or unending wars or forever wars. That is why when J.D. Vance day before yesterday said, or Trump also yesterday said that it will be over soon. So I have a feeling that they are hoping that there will be some kind of a some kind of an agreement, whatever it is, face saving or otherwise, like they did Doha agreement in with regard to Taliban. So you might see some kind of an agreement and Americans wanting to get out of here because they are also feeling the pinch in a very big way.
So, last, sir, is that whichever way you define it, what an agreement, so it means, as you said, that Iran's intelligentsia remains intact, IRGC is there, blocking USA from coming and taking over is as good as Iran has won this war. That
Yes,
said,
notionally, yes.
right, that said, there should be impact in the regional power politics from
Yes.
Oman to UAE. Everyone will start rethinking about those American bases. In Israel, the anti Netanyahu sentiment should get stronger, and in US also, it is, if Trump can avoid it, there should be. I don't think that he can. I mean, but anyway, that's about future. So, do you see that? What are the changes that you, assuming that the agreement happens, assuming that it happens? What are the changes in world politics that you see going to come?
You see, in this particular war, one of the biggest losses that Iran will suffer is its trust with the regional countries, which it was trying to come up. So, which will be very difficult to bridge, even though Qatar and Oman and everybody else is talking, saying that at the end of the day, Iran is our neighbor, we have to live with them, we can't live without. But there is a trust deficit. And this trust deficit will have to be bridged by the new leadership in Iran, whichever is there. As far as the United States is concerned, it has also lost its credibility of being the security umbrella or security provider for these countries in the Gulf, who have invested hundreds of billions of dollars in equipment and arms and everything there from them. As far as, of course, I mean, this impact will be there going forward on his elections, which are later in the year, not immediately. So Trump will have to face the music back home as well. Already there are, as I mentioned, people are coming out, no kings, no this thing, all kinds of criticism is coming against him. They don't want to go for war. They want the economy to survive. At the end of the day, the United States is the most indebted nation in the world, even if it is the largest economy. Their debt is more than their GDP. So this is something that they need to worry about. And the cost of living is going up by the day because of this war and because of his tariffs and sanctions that he had imposed on countries. So he's into that kind of a bracket. As far as Netanyahu is concerned, his philosophy has been as long as he's riding the line, he's safe. So wars serve his personal purpose. Otherwise, he will be interrogated, investigated, and maybe imprisoned for the corruption cases, for October 7 lapses. There are so many things. There will be a commission set up which will look into everything. People are also unhappy. But fortunately for him at the moment, because the survival of Israel is also in question today, that 72% Israelis still support him or his war. So as long as that happens, he remains safe. But I doubt very much that in the next elections in October, he will have he will be able to muster the same kind of strength to come to power.
So all you indicated is that widespread change. And now a last question and a direct question. The moment Iran as US signs the agreement, as far as my understanding goes, Russia and China, their positions will consolidate. They will be, I think so. You can correct me. But so my point is to what will be India's gains? Assuming, Trump also knows that it is a loss entering a peace pact. If you were to enter the peace pact, you could have entered 2 weeks, 1 month ago. Why the war then? So that said, do you think any change in Trump's attitude, will he try to bridge the gap he built with India?
Well, one thing is there, one impact of this war has been that because of the energy disruptions, supply disruptions, Trump has already taken off the sanctions from the Russian
Russia.
oil. Not only Russian oil, but even the Iranian oil, which has been black. So Iranians are making $14 billion.
Logics have gone for a 6.
Yes. So from that point of view, it is helping us. So we have retrieved our, supplies from the Russians or Venezuela or even getting it from Argentina as far as the United States. So we are in any case diversifying. Not that things are easy for us because we depend a great deal on the Hormuz, opening of the Hormuz and other sea lanes of communications. 85% of our trade is there. Our UAE and Saudi Arabia are our fourth largest partners. We have more than $200 billion trade with the region. So from our perspective, it has direct impact. More importantly for us, there are about 10 million people who are remitting about $70 billion, and their safety and security is of tremendous concern for us. So India is in a very special bracket as far as this war is concerned. I always call it as an existential for us. As far as China and Russia are concerned, overtly, I must say that they have not gained any great traction in this war. Russians are making money, but Russians are stuck in that war with Ukraine. Therefore, they don't have a spare capacity to help. Right now, they are helping China and Russia are helping Iran mainly with the communications. Their GLONASS satellites constellation, and they
are offering the background support to the
yes,
Iranians,
which is very
and the
very
Houthis.
important today for precision strikes. So I think that this is to that extent they are doing, but they are also pressuring along with India for an early resolution of this, some kind of a stoppage. Trump, of course, wants to maintain his relationship with China and still have the G2 format in his mind. And he's going to China in May. So war has to end sooner than that. But direct impact, I don't think this is for China. In some biggest problem is for China, Iran is a very important partner, and so are Saudi Arabia, UAE, and others. So taking sides does not arrive. The only thing that works for them is when, as soon as possible, that this war ends and their relationship with all these countries remain intact. But what I feel is that going forward, all these Gulf countries, Arab Gulf countries, they will come in together and they will make their own security architecture as strong and the United Arabs. And later on, if they can find some modus vivendi with the Iranians, because Iranians have lost a lot of trust with them, they feel that they are victimized, the Gulf countries. The Iranians say we are fighting for our survival and self-defense. Now, both are right in certain ways, but then trust is something that cannot be bridged in one day. So they'll have to come clean on that. That's the problem. Americans want Israeli hegemony in the region, but the Arab countries don't want Israel to be another hegemon like Iranians. So that's why I say that there will be, after this war, whichever way it settles, we will see the tremendous change in the intra-regional equations. And from our perspective, we hope that the supply chains remain intact and the war ends.
Sir, you said two things at the same breath. One, you said that there will be widespread changes, but at the same time, you also said that the trust factor will be low between Arab states and the US,
And Iran.
between Iran and the Arab states.
Yes.
So, peace and low trust cannot normally go together, right? You have to have a degree of trust. So I have a question, just one liner. How soon do you expect? I mean, if this war stops, it seems you are saying that there are elements for a bigger war, a regional war. So assuming that the war stops here, how soon do you expect another trouble to break out?
Well, unfortunately, this war.
It is not a very.
Unfortunately, this region is very volatile. Maximum number of hotspots are there. And so there is always the possibility of a war breaking out. There are these legacy issues like Palestine, which have not been resolved. It keeps giving countries an option to go for doing something. But I think that after this war, we will have some kind of a forced peace for some time.
That will be a huge takeaway.
But the fact is that if we don't get some kind of a ceasefire agreement quickly, we might have a bigger conflagration going forward next week onwards.
That's huge. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.